To speak about Christian worship, we first must decide just what this term means. It is not an easy expression to define. Indeed, worship is an exasperatingly difficult word to pin down. What distinguishes worship from other human activities, particularly those noted for their frequent repetition? Why is worship a different type of activity from daily chores or any habitual action? More specifically, how does worship differ from other recurring activities of the Christian community itself? What distinguishes worship from Christian education or works of charity, for instance? Is a contemporary service meant to be worship or evangelism, or both? Once we have made up our minds about what we mean by worship, how do we determine what makes such worship Christian? Our culture is full of various types of worship. Are there distinctive marks for Christian worship? For that matter, is all worship offered by the Christian community always Christian? None of these are easy questions to resolve, but they certainly need to be probed, and they are not simply speculative matters of theoretical interest alone. Defining what is distinctive about Christian worship is a vital practical tool for anyone who has responsibility for planning, preparing for, or leading Christian worship. The continuing appearance of new forms of worship has made this type of basic analysis even more crucial for those people charged with worship ministry. Such people are constantly involved in decision-making as they serve the Christian community through worship leadership. The more practical the decision, the more necessary the theoretical foundations often become. Is a certain act, such as pledging one's allegiance to a national flag, appropriate in Christian worship? Or is that act out of place? Should other acts, such as celebrating the adoption of a child, which churches have not customarily included in worship, find a place in the worship life of the church? Or is that not appropriate in Christian worship? Only if one has a working definition of Christian worship can one cope with such practical problems. I shall explore 3 methods of clarifying just what we mean by Christian worship. I have increasingly come to feel that the most adequate approach is a phenomenological one that seeks careful description of what Christians do when they come together for worship. Although this may seem the most simple and straightforward method, observation is essential if we are to understand the meanings of the structures or services Christians use over and over again for worship. Most of this book will concentrate on describing the development, theology, and use of actual structures or services. It is helpful, second, to explore some definitions of greater abstraction that Christian thinkers have used to explain what they understand Christian worship to be.